vote delay. Liberal activists fighting to save Obamacare are seeking to capitalize on an unexpected gift, at least another week, if not more, before the Senate GOP will bring its repeal plan to the floor. Progressive groups already had stalked this week with public protests against the Republican legislation, expecting a make-or-break vote. But Senator John McCain's absence from the Capitol following surgery for a blood clot handed the left a major opportunity to rally opposition and keep the spotlight on the GOP's struggle to even begin debate on a bill that polls dismally with the public. Activists are preparing protests well into next month aimed at keeping the pressure on Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's ARCE conference, particularly the half-dozen most closely watched moderate swing votes. Every day the Senate doesn't repeal ACA and gun Medicaid is a day that makes it less likely they'll be able to move on. Washington Director Ben Wickler told reporters. Every day this bill is dangling out there in public, it becomes more unpopular. The fresh push kicked off on Monday. The Bernie Sanders-backed group A Revolution staged sit-ins at a half-dozen Senate GOP offices throughout the day, while the upstart liberal organization Indivisible prepared for more than 100 demonstrations in 39 states on Tuesday. More activist groups returned to the Hill for a series of near-daily rallies against the bill, with appearances by Democratic senators. The right mounted no similar flurry of public activity in defense of the bill, underscoring the mismatch in grassroots energy between liberals and conservatives who had pressed McConnell to embrace a more straightforward repeal strategy. And the harder McConnell pushes for a vote on uprooting the Affordable Care Act, the more his opponents relish his failure to notch that quick victory. With only 2 public GOP no votes on taking up the bill, Sens. Susan Collins of Maine and Rand Paul of Kentucky, activists are expecting to see several Republicans hop off the fence at once. They acknowledge that the extra time provided by McCain's recuperation also gives McConnell time to cajole undecided Republicans one-on-one, but they're banking on the imminent Congressional Budget Office score of the bill and negative headlines to make the majority leader's job even harder as the clock ticks toward August. Extra time matters a lot more when you're appealing to the general public that despises this bill than it does when you're playing an inside-the-beltway game of trading buy-offs and favors with people who are listening anyway. Jesse Ferguson, a veteran Democratic strategist advising pro-Obamacare groups, said in an interview. Rather than organize the sort of massive marches that anti-Trump groups favored earlier in the year, healthcare organizers are focusing on personal stories from constituents appealing directly to their senators. Capitol Police reported arresting 33 demonstrators in the Senate as of midday Monday during liberal groups' protest actions. The message we've been telling our groups, especially the ones in D.C., is to go to an office, said Indivisible Policy Director Angel Padilla. You want to go rally and march? Great. But if you want to be effective at congressional advocacy, go to your members' offices and make sure they see you inside. In that vein, Planned Parenthood is setting up a Wednesday event for supporters to share personal stories about how the 7-year-old healthcare law has helped them and call their senators. National Organizing Director Deirdre Seifling told reporters. Another liberal group Ultraviolet told reporters Monday that it had commissioned planes to fly in Ohio, Alaska and West Virginia, all swing states represented by moderate Republicans undecided on the repeal bill. Ferguson also identified another benefit to anti-repeal activists from the delay in a Senate vote. The CBO may have time to release a nonpartisan score of a new addition to the legislation, authored by Senator Ted Cruz, R. Texas, that would allow insurers to sell plans not compliant with Obamacare. Republicans had suggested they might rely on a score of the Cruz proposal from the Trump administration if the CBO were not able to finish an independent assessment in time for a vote this week. They would have to rely on whatever sham analysis the Department of Health and Human Services could produce, Ferguson said, but now they've lost that excuse. 2 Iranians charged in hacking case where Obama pardoned another. 2 Iranian men have been indicted for allegedly hacking a Vermont defense technology firm, but one of their cohorts who admitted guilt won't be punished because of a pardon President Barack Obama granted last year as part of the Iran U.S. nuclear deal. On Monday, The Justice Department announced the indictment of Mohammad Reza Zakha, 39, and Mohammed Saeed Ajili, 35, for conspiring to hack South Burlington, Vermont-based Aerotech starting in 2007 as part of an effort to allow Iranian companies to use the company's software in violation of U.S. export controls. Justice's press release revealing the charges against Zakha and Ajili referred obliquely to a third actor who has already pleaded guilty in the District of Vermont for related conduct. However, the indictment identifies that man as Nima Goldstein. Goldstein was indicted in U.S. District Court in Vermont in 2013 on similar charges and extradited from Turkey after protracted negotiations with that country. Goldstein pled guilty in December 2015 to federal wire fraud and computer hacking charges and was awaiting sentencing when he received the pardon from Obama, one of a series of clemency grants and dropped prosecutions the administration agreed to as part of a broader effort to reach a nuclear agreement and obtain the release of several Americans being held prisoner in Iran. Politico reported earlier this year that the actions Obama took to attempt the rapprochement with Iran angered Justice Department officials and that statements the administration issued at the time downplayed the significance of the cases that were sacrificed as part of the diplomatic initiative. Aerotech's main product is computer software that helps calculate missile trajectories. The program, identified in the indictment as Projectile Rocket Ordnance Design and Analysis System or PRODES, is considered defense equipment and can only be exported with a State Department license. The new announcement from the Justice Department came on the same day the Trump administration announced its review of Iranian compliance with the nuclear deal, which President Donald Trump has sharply criticized. While the Justice Department statement may appear as a rebuke of Obama's pardon issued in connection with the same events, the timing of the charges against Zakha and Ajili seems to undercut that possibility. The indictment announced Monday was actually returned in April 2016, under the Obama administration. It has been under seal since while law enforcement made efforts to take the men into custody. Asked why the indictment was unsealed now, a Justice Department official said keeping an indictment under seal for a period then announcing it is commonplace. This practice improves the chances for law enforcement to apprehend the defendants, said the official, who asked not to be named. A filing prosecutors submitted to a federal judge last week asking to unseal the indictment and related arrest warrants shed little light on the situation, saying simply that the unsealing was appropriate now because the investigation into the matter has concluded. The justice official said the two defendants are believed to be in Iran. Officials have argued in similar cases that while the arrest of the individuals being sought is unlikely, announcing the charges will limit the travel of those charged and serve as a deterrent to others considering similar activity. Court dockets suggest that Zakha or Ajili or others were charged back in 2015 in connection with the same events, but the original filings in the case remain sealed. White House under pressure to drop Export-Import Bank nominee. President Donald Trump is standing behind former Representative Scott Garrett, his choice to head the Export-Import Bank, amid escalating pressure from business groups to pull the plug on the nomination. Scott Garrett is eminently qualified to lead the Exim Bank, White House spokeswoman Natalie Strom said in a statement to Politico. The president stands behind his nomination and is looking forward to his confirmation. Trump's defense of the New Jersey Republican comes as rumors swirl that Garrett may withdraw amid fears that his nomination will not win enough votes to clear the Senate. Lawmakers from both parties have raised concerns about him, largely because he strongly opposed the bank while serving in Congress. The Senate Banking Committee, which will be responsible for vetting his nomination, has not yet received his paperwork. Administration officials said Garrett's nomination has been a topic of conversation among senior Trump aides in recent days. Aides have pointed to intensifying blowback from influential business associations that are allied with the president, including an op-ed published in the Wall Street Journal last week by National Association of Manufacturers President Jay Timmons that blasted Garrett. Trump has sought to cultivate close ties with business groups and powerful CEOs. He has met with more than 330 corporate executives since taking office, often relying on them to drive his policy agenda. The president also set up a manufacturing advisory council packed with non-members. An administration official and other people tracking the issue said Garrett could be summoned to the White House to talk with Trump about his nomination as soon as this week. Strom, the White House spokeswoman, did not respond to inquiries about the potential meeting. Garrett did not respond to repeated requests for comment. During his career in Congress, Garrett was one of the most outspoken critics of the bank, which guarantees loans for foreign buyers of U.S. exports. In 2015, he said the agency embodies the corruption of the free enterprise system. His record has driven businesses that rely on the agency to try to stop his nomination, even though they also want the Senate to confirm nominees who would fill out its board. The bank has been unable to approve deals worth more than $10 million because of a lack of a quorum. Further complicating Garrett's nomination is controversy around his views on homosexuality, which contributed to his failed re-election bid in 2016 after major corporate donors declined to continue backing him. As Politico first reported in 2015, Garrett told lawmakers in a closed-door meeting that he refused to pay National Republican Congressional Committee dues because the group recruited gay candidates. He later denied that he opposed gay candidates and said his problem was with support for same-sex marriage. The White House has said that under prior leadership, the bank had become another form of corporate welfare and that Garrett would refocus Exim on its original mission of providing support for the businesses that truly need it while protecting taxpayers. Though the White House first announced his nomination in April, lobbyists waited until recently to begin publicly mounting an aggressive opposition effort. Timmons said in the Journal op-ed that the nomination should be withdrawn because it represented a terrible trade deal for our country. The South Carolina Chamber of Commerce then called on Palmetto State GOP Sens. Tim Scott and Lindsey Graham, who could be key to Garrett's confirmation, to oppose him. Graham later told Bloomberg Television that he would try to get the administration to give us a better nominee. Scott is a member of the Banking Committee, where Republicans will have a one-vote margin to approve Garrett's nomination if Democrats withhold support. South Carolina is home to plants operated by Boeing and General Electric, two of the most prominent beneficiaries of the agency. Tim Keating, Boeing's senior vice president of government operations, said the company found it difficult to support anyone who has not supported the bank and made public statements to that effect. We don't have any explanation as to why now he wants to lead the entity that he said he wanted to shut down, said Neil Bradley, Chief Policy Officer at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, in an interview Friday. Nor do we have any sense that he's committed to using the position as chairman to ensuring the bank does its work. Veronique Darugi, who has fought to close the bank as a senior research fellow at George Mason University's Mercatus Center, said Garrett's opponents wanted someone who will say yes to everything, who will change nothing, who will make no reforms, who will guarantee it's the same business as usual. I am curious to see if he will be as anti-Exim or even as reform-minded once he's the president of Exim as he was when he was in Congress, she said. It's a big if.